look what I got for Christmas. So what we're doing today is a proper full review of the Firebolt ASP, and I'm also going to do some tips on how to race this lap that I've put together. Before we do, let's say hi to Motsen.
Hi.
So that's him there, in front, which is awkward. And before we start, I've got my first tip about how to race this lap, and that relates to this kerb here. Because what you want to do here, you want to take this straight on, and depending on how fast the car is that you're driving, you may need either a dab of brake or just a little bit of an ease off. If you're in something really quick, what will happen is when you hit the kerb, it will launch you so far that you don't have time to brake for the corner. And if you want to see what that looks like, let's just roll this on a little bit. Seamless. So why have I chosen to do this one as a race? Well, this car isn't actually available to buy yet, but you can get it for tier 4 of the career progress. And before we go into that, we've got another tip for you, which relates to this jump. Now, depending again on how fast the car is, there will always be a car just the other side of the jump, and there'll always be one on the other side of the road. So if you're in a fast car and you've had a clean start to the lap, you'll easily have enough speed to jump straight across this car, so you don't need to do anything whatsoever. However, if you're in something a little bit slower, you're going to need to try and aim it to go down the middle. So back to the reason I'm doing it this way. As I say, you can't actually buy this yet, but you can get it from tier 4 of the career challenge. And I don't know if anyone's ever done any of the career challenges before, but some of them get a little bit tedious. So this is the point where most people would show you how to get through tier 4, but that's not what I did. Motsen just sent me a message and said, look, do you want to buy the Firebolt? And I was like, hell yeah! So that's my guide to getting this early. It's not to complete tier 4, it's just know someone that's done it. So that's when I thought it'd be pretty cool to do this as a race, even though there was a very significant possibility of me losing. But when I thought about it, I do kind of have home advantage. I've done over 200 laps on this, and whilst most of this track is fairly easy, there are a handful of corners that can catch you out. And with me, it took sort of 200 repetitions to get them right, but I am a slow learner. So the freeway section is okay. Basically, you want to try and straight line this as much as possible. The reason I leave the traffic on is to make the comparisons more realistic, because you're going to be using these cars in missions, and whenever you're using them, there are going to be other players or NPCs or enemy cars on the road. So the way I look at it, there's no point testing cars on a clear, dry track in the middle of the day, because that's not how you're going to be using them. I think how a car deals with the traffic is really quite important to how useful it is. And contrary to what you might think, the traffic is not as random as you might think. For example, if you look at early in the lap, there are certain points where I know there's going to be a car, and there are certain points where I know we're going to be clear. So, getting back to this, I thought even though there's a chance I might lose, I just thought, fuck it. So what do we think of the car? Because this is a fairly straightforward section of the lap. We've got to start with the sound. I mean, that's incredible. And I know this is a snow lap, but if you look at my snow videos, I reckon the average time loss between a normal lap and a snow lap across this, for the good cars, seems to be around 15 to 20 seconds. So I'm pretty happy that this will put in a representative time. I'll do another lap when the snow goes, but I just wanted to get this thing done now. So customization wise, it's quite good. There's not as much as I thought there was going to be, but there's enough, because let's face it, I think there are only 2 ways you're going to do this car, or only 2 ways you should do this car. You can go all black and go for the Harley Davidson edition, or if you fancy a movie car, there are quite a few options, because you can do this one from Fast and Furious, or you can do this one from the Fast and the Furious. There's also this one from the Fast and the Furious, and if none of those take your fancy and you want to do something a little bit different, a little bit of original, there's always this one from the Fast and the Furious. Now, to channel my inner Crichton, I realised technically that's the same car, but it's such a good one, it was definitely worth mentioning 4 times. Before we go on, this is another one of those tricky corners. In some cars you can take this flat, but in most you do need a little bit of an ease off. So the car itself is brilliant. This does not handle like a truck. It sits in the off-road class as well. So even though it's HSW, you might be forgiven for thinking it's not going to be great, but you would be wrong. This thing is incredible. It's quite expensive. I don't really know the prices yet, but when I bought it from Motsen, and again, I've got to keep saying thank you every time, it cost just under 3.3 million. So if we take off 300,000 for the HSW specific upgrades, that leaves us with around 3 million split between buying the car and applying the main HSW upgrade. So someone may have found out what the prices are. I haven't seen them yet, but I would guess you're going to be looking at about 1.9 million for the truck and about 1.1 million for the main HSW upgrade, which actually makes it pretty good value. So before we carry on, let's just have a look at what this does for the top speed. There we have it. So back to the car. Sound amazing, looks brilliant, handling incredibly good, even in the snow. And I took the off-road tyres off and put tuner ones on because I was trying to match the original truck. It was pretty useful actually that the one I bought from Motsen was already pretty much done almost perfectly to how it is in the film. The only things I had to change, or say had to change, wanted to change, was to put the flat bonnet on and to just have a flick through and make sure I get the correct wheels. But either way, it's a fabulous looking thing. It is a fabulous handling thing. It is not really a surprise. I expected this to be good. I'm not quite sure I expected it to be this good. I didn't realise it was HSW when I first saw it, and I didn't think it would be this quick, because if you look at the time, especially remembering this is in snow when we're in a powerful rear-wheel drive truck, this is putting in a pretty respectable time. And one thing I will say while we're here, always happy to pay it forward. I'm super grateful to Motsen for letting me buy this from him. If anyone watching this video has looked at the career challenges and thought, what the hell with that? If you want to buy it from me, that's absolutely fine. My PSN is in the description. Add me, join me in a session, and I'll happily head over to LS Carmi and let you buy it from me there. It is absolutely worth it. And already we're at the end of the lap. And this is what really separates the good cars from the bad cars. From here, what you want to be doing, you shouldn't be looking here. You should be looking right up here, because you need to be picking your gaps out really quite far in advance, because what you want to do is keep this as straight as possible, but avoiding as many cars as you possibly can. Because the last thing you want to do is that. And then when you get to the bridges, that's where the traffic test, I think, really comes in, because it's all about responsiveness and manoeuvrability. This is really representative of how you have to use the cars in the game. So if you can't get through these gaps without avoiding the cars, then that makes the car pretty pointless in the missions. And this, as you can see, is just slicing through everything. So all in all, this is definitely one of the top releases from this DLC. It looks good, it drives good, it's not particularly expensive, it's not the cheapest truck in the game, but for what you're getting, this is easily the best. And here's the time it managed to do. An 8:08 on a snowy track. That is an incredible time. If you account for the average of 15 seconds that I think you lose in the snow with a good car, that is putting this well under 7 minutes 50 for a truck. For an off-road truck, which is not all that expensive. It's an absolute bargain. It's a must-buy for everyone. So thanks again to Motsen for, first of all, letting me buy it and for joining me in a race. It was great fun. I really enjoyed that. As I say, if anyone else watching this wants to get a version of this car, find my PSN in the description, add me, join me in a session. You're more than welcome to buy it. So I hope you all had a fabulous Christmas, and I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you in the new year.